Welcome to Spirit School. I'm your mentor, Danielle Sarank, also known as the Squamish Medium. In this podcast, I share honestly all I have learned about the mediumship and spiritual development journey. My intention is to normalize these conversations, to make way for a more confident, clear, and connected wave of lightworkers, serving the world of spirit with an open and joyful soul. Welcome again to Spirit School. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spirit School. I'm so excited to share my friend Debbie Squizzero with you. How are you, Debbie?
Wonderful, Danielle.
I'm so excited you're here. So me and Debbie actually met probably about 18 months ago through Lindsay Marino's Mediumship Mastery Circle and just kind of kept in touch, watched each other's journeys ever since then. And she recently made like a big transition in her life, a big decision. And I know this is something so many of us light workers are faced with. So I really wanted to have her onto the podcast and talk a little bit about it. But I want to start from the beginning, Deb. First, just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do, how you do it, and then we'll talk a little bit about your origin story.
Okay, so my name is Debbie Squizzero. I'm from the United States in this little tiny state called Rhode Island, and I am a psychic medium. And it took me a long time to get here, but I'm here. And I do for work, I do my psychic medium stuff, which is I have a beautiful YouTube channel. I do readings for people. I do the Zoom reading. I'll do a small group. I'll do a larger group. I love my one-on-ones. So I do all of that kind of psychic medium work. And I'm really getting into manifesting and intention setting and gratitude. I've been getting into that for a while, and it's hugely changing my life and my mediumship in such a positive way. So I also like to inspire people with that as well. So, and
I love that.
Thank you. And I'd like to also, the other part of my work that I'd love to do, I always say, I love to empower my clients with spiritual tools. So things that I've used in my life that have helped me. So when they sit with me, I'm always like, listen, I'm going to give you either spiritual homework or a spiritual tool. And so many times, Danielle, they will come back and say, oh my goodness, I did do it. And it did change, it helped them to change their life or make some important changes. So that's really near and dear to my heart, that I can help them on both those levels, connect with their deceased loved ones, empower them, and then also guide them as well.
I love that. I love that. So I didn't think I was going to go here, but with the manifestation stuff, like what tools are you learning? Like who are you learning from with this? I'm just curious about it. I get asked about it all the time. So that's
Oh,
what I
how
want to
funny.
say.
Okay, and I just actually on my my Instagram and Facebook, I just put out a big post the other day about how I got into it. It's like a little 6-page kind of post, and I was introduced to the teachings of Abraham and Hicks probably over 20 years ago from a local healer here in the States she read for me and guided me. And she also introduced me to Wayne Dyer. And Wayne Dyer also supports a lot of the teachings and was very supportive of Abraham and Hicks. And then from there, fast forward to 2006, The Secret came out. So I started to learn about law of attraction. I started with vision boards. And then it just kind of, as my life kept rolling in this switch with my mediumship, I should back up and say I've been a teacher for 22 years, special education, early childhood teacher. And so my spirituality with the manifesting was really coming forward. I found I'd think about things and it would start to show up in my life when I started to just really implement gratitude every day and affirmations and visualization. And like these 3 things, I figured out I'm a powerful manifester if I really put my mind to it, and it blows me away. And you can be, if you're dedicated to your energetic practice, you really can. I don't have any special superpowers. I always say, listen, if you stay consistent, strive for consistency and not perfection. And so I've just kept rolling over the years with like my vision boards. And as my mediumship became more prominent in my life and my spiritual work, the manifesting and the gratitude became more in my life. And so it was like kind of this like learning about it and then kind of rolling with it. And now it's like, I'll say it's converging and it has like just become my life, really. I live it every day. So that's how I
love that. I love that so much because I get asked all the time because I've never studied anything manifesting, but I'm able to manifest a lot. And for me, it's been this like I receive something and I kind of look back. I'm like, what did I do? Like, how did I get this? And I was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I'm like, I did actually like put this on a moon list and I did actually, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I just recently, I've heard of Abraham Hicks for a long time, but I recently just started listening to them. I'm a little bit of a stubborn person. Everyone kept recommending it. And I was like, well, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what else I can get into right now, but I've absolutely loved Abraham Hicks. My friend Trish sends me videos all the time. Like if I tell her like, oh, I'm feeling down today, all of a sudden in my text, I'm going to get an Abraham Hicks video.
Oh, I love that. And Danielle, you know what? They have cards. I love their cards. So if I just want a quick message, like I shuffle their cards up and get a message.
Yeah.
And Gabby Bernstein, I should also mention, she's another big one for manifestation. But I started with, like you said, Abraham and Hicks, and I love that your friend does that for you. Oh my
I
God.
know, it's so funny. Yeah, I remember the first time I realized that I could manifest stuff. I did used to do vision boards every New Year's, but I would like set it and forget it. I would like put it away and I had this absurd amount of money on there, like way absurd, like double the income I was actually making. And I was like, whatever, we'll see if I get it. And then sure enough, like December 28th that year, I came back from New Zealand and there was like a check in the mail from the government. They miscalculated taxes for the past 7 years. And then I forgot all about that vision board. But a couple days later, I went to go do my next one, pulled out last one, and I actually did the math. And I was like, oh my God, I actually got this amount. Like it came in a way I could not have expected.
You know, right now you can see me. I've got chills head to toe. I'm like, oh my God. And then there's no coincidence you took out that board when you did. Like I'm truly covered with chills. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy good. I love that. Oh my.
Yes. And so I've manifested clients. Like this is the other thing when I started doing mediumship and I was only doing it like on weekends, a couple weekends a month because I was working full time and had kids and husband who was not very supportive of this journey. And so I only had like 6 availability sessions a month. And so I used to ask my spirit guides and just say, I only want 6 clients because I didn't like wait lists and I
Yes.
would only get 6. And I'm just like, I just have to ask.
Yes. And you know what, speaking of clients with that, this is what I've learned on my manifesting with my affirmations. I say this all the time. I always say to spirit, please bring me clients that I can bless and that can bless me. And when I tell you, it never goes wrong. And I try to tell as many people who do this, I'm like, just put it out there because they know who they're going to send to you, And so I just put that affirmation out just like that. Yeah. Isn't it so crazy? They know. I feel like when you serve spirit, they just have your back all the time. And I call them my SST, my spiritual support team. And I'm like, they always have my back. They're awesome.
I love it. This is so great. Okay, so let's go back a little bit to mediumship. Tell me about your journey with mediumship. Like, where did it start? How did you develop? Tell me a bit about this journey.
Sure. It's been a heck of a travel adventure. I always say before I start this story that my life is nothing the way I thought it was going to be because I thought I would just be married, be a mom, have a couple of kids, and be a school teacher for the rest of my life. I truly did. There's no husband, no pet, no, and I just love teaching. So I'll back up and start now from the beginning where I was probably around 6 or 8 years old when I would go to bed and I would say to my mom, please close my closet door because people come out of the closet. And she'd be like, Debbie, what are you talking about? And Danielle, they looked like, they were like shadowy figures like you would see in like a ghost hunter show. That's all I can describe them as. And they would come out of my closet and they would go in the hallway and they would scare the crap out of me. And I didn't know that even though my mother would close the closet door, that those people were still coming up because they're ethereal. They are coming out no matter what. They're spirit, right? So and now I also know too, I always say, so knowing what we know about mediumship, we're a spiritual being, we come from a place of love. And I'm like, oh my God. So it's like a moth to a light. So at 6 and 8 years old, you're not yet tainted by ego and life. And here's this love from the spirit world. And it's like, and they just go together, they like attracts like. And so I now understand at that young age that those were spiritual, beautiful beings of love that we were coming together, but it was a lot to process at that time. Like, most people, when that happens, when it starts young. So then from there, I always felt as I kept going, getting older, 10, 12, my teens, I felt like there was always somebody around me or somebody was watching me, and not in a creepy way, but in a very peaceful, I have your back, you're okay kind of way. Then I got into my 20s. Oh, and I should back up and say too, when I was very young, like 10, teens, I would dream about my deceased loved ones.
Mm.
Always been, I've always been a very vivid, colorful dreamer. And like I can see down to the plaid in somebody's shirt. It's so vivid. And I would say to my mom in my teens, like, Mom, so and so came to visit, and this is what they had on, and this is what they said. And it was so clear to me. And I would feel very at peace or calm the next day, you know. And my mom would say, well, Mom, they're just happy. They wouldn't talk to me, but I just knew they were happy. Like I just felt it. So then in my 20s, I kept having these dreams, and I was very attracted always to like card readers and all that kind of stuff. So in my teens, I went. Now, I should also tell you, I was raised Italian Catholic, and my parents are very hardcore. We go every holy day of obligation. We go every Sunday. We go every holiday. We go. And Deb just wasn't embracing this whole thing. um, I then went to this card reader in my teens, when I was in high school with my girlfriend. She was like in the basement of some hair salon, and she read cards, and I was like, oh my God, she's the greatest thing ever. I was so sucked in. Of course, I go home, tell my mom, and she tells me it's against my religion, and I'm read the Riot Act, and she does not think that now. It's amazing what scares people when they don't understand. That's what I've learned too. So now that she's one of my biggest fans, biggest supporters, but back like how many years ago, she didn't understand. So that from there was a lady in my 20s. When I was in my 20s, I would go see this woman, and she would read for me all the time. And she would say to me, Danielle, she'd be like, Debbie, you're good energy. And I'd be like, I don't know what that means. I'm too young to ask. I don't want to ask. I'm like, I've always had this problem of like speaking my truth. It just stays right in my throat and in the throat chakra, and it doesn't come out, and I'm not going to say anything. And so she would say that to me, and she would read for me. And I was so intrigued. And one day she said to me, she goes, Debbie, you're going to do this work. And I said, Ellie, you are so full of shit. I'm not doing this work. I said, I love coming here. I hear about my dead people. You tell me about my life. I go, and it's fabulous. Hindsight, such a gift, right? So we always fight. We resist the thing the most. So I'm rolling on with my life in my early 30s. I'm going through a very difficult emotional like turmoil in my life. And one of the ladies, this lady that read for me in my 20s, she actually moved to Canada. So she wasn't here in the States anymore. And so at work, this one teacher I work with, she said, Debbie, I know you're into all of this, and I know you're going through a hard time. She sent me to this local healer, this same one that got me into manifesting. And she sent me to this local healer. I sat with her, and she told me again that I had this. And she goes, "Do you know that you can?" I go, Shh, I only talk about that with my mom. I go, we don't have discussions about what goes on with all that, And she was laughing. She's like, "But listen, you could really help people." So I left there, and I was processing everything she said to me. And I remember getting in touch with her saying, okay, if I really have this and I can do this, I said, I really want to help people. What do I do? And from there, I started reading. Well, actually, in my 20s, I read James Van Praagh. That kind of helped me with like the dreams and the afterlife. So then I studied with her. She taught me about the angels. She taught me about manifesting. She introduced me. I did so many workshops with her where she taught me how to unpack all of this energy and what to do with it. And then from there, I just had like this was probably, I'm 50 now. So I was 30 when everything started opening up. And the thing was too, when I sat with her, Danielle, and I was going through so much emotional stuff, we know that sometimes is a trigger for things like for spirit just to light up and come out. And that's basically what happened to me. It was like after I sat with her, it was like Pandora's box opened up. People walked by me and I could hear things. And I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to be hearing that. So when I was at work one day, a teacher walked by me and I heard she's going to Ireland. And I said, I'm going to go check on this. So I go into the teacher's room, followed her, and then I go, so-and-so, what's new? What's going on? I haven't seen. She's like, oh, my husband and I, we just booked a trip to Ireland. And I was like, oh my God. It's like, I've got to learn how to control this. So I just studied with other mentors and took classes. And all the while, I've been doing two things. So as this whole mediumship thing is unpacking, I am a teacher, a full-time teacher. And I've always had two jobs in my life. And so I had this other job besides my full-time teaching job. I had this job of being an adjunct faculty professor at a local community college. And I just liked this very much. And so, no coincidence, a friend of mine said to me, she gave me a massage one day. I saw she had Archangel Michael cards, and I said to her, "Oh my God, let me tell you what's going on in my life." And she said, "Oh my God, I didn't know you were into this." She said, "You're going to read here, Debbie." And I go, "Oh, no, I don't read for people." I said, "I just told you I'm interested, but I don't read for people." And she said, "No, you're going to read for me, and then you're going to read here." And I was like, I don't think so. But then I thought about it, Danielle, and I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? I really don't like this other job. And if I can read for like two people a month, I don't even care. This is where my heart is. Let's do it. So while I was reading there, I did my like two people a month. I just read also simultaneously out of my house for nothing, just because I wanted to develop and I wanted to just see where it was going. I asked for guinea pigs. I'm like, whoever. And I had guinea pigs come forward and they were great. You know, I was so grateful. And I just kept developing. And at that time too, nothing was online. Like we're so lucky and so blessed that there are so many resources right now, because 20 years ago, there were no resources, hardly any. It was like just like locally at a metaphysical shop or a healer there or a healer here. And when Arthur Findlay went online, I was like, oh, jackpot, you know, the Arthur Findlay College in England, the spiritual college. And so I had hooked up with a couple of people online there. And then I just started, when I started at my friend's, two clients eventually turned into like four, which turned into six. And then from that place, I graduated to another place and to another place, all the while I'm teaching. So finally, I'm 10 years into doing my mediumship, and I'm into my teaching. And Spirit is really trying to say to me, Debbie, you cannot keep up this pace. And all the while, you know how Spirit is. They talk through people. And so people kept saying to me, why don't you just go do this work? I'm like, no, like I have this worthiness. Worthiness is the issue for me, not just in my mediumship, and it's throughout my whole life. It's just something that I came here to work on, which starts with a family thread and it carries through work and it carries through myself and it carries into my mediumship. It's all about worthiness for me. And so Spirit would send me clients that would say, validate that I need to go forward with this. And the more they did, Danielle, the more I resisted, right? Because this is what we do. Nope, I'm just going to teach because I really don't think I could fill the shoes that Spirit wants me to fill for this. Part-time, yeah. Full-time, no, I don't think so. So Debbie kept plugging along and we're getting close to 10 years doing two things, and my business is growing and growing and growing. And then my responsibilities at work are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you know, we all have life that goes on. So I have other life problems that are going on as well. We all do. So we all have that, you know, stuff. So I've got all this stuff going on and I'm trying to balance it. I'm seeing that my mental health, my emotional health, and my physical health, especially my physical health, was deteriorating. And I've also had a weight loss journey through my years. In my 30s, I had a huge weight loss journey, and I was a personal trainer for a while. And so I know about taking care of my body. I know what I need to do, and I'm not doing it. And I'm finding it harder to get out of bed because I'm exhausted. I'm giving 110% at teaching. I'm giving 110 or more at my job, at the mediumship, and I'm trying to balance the energy. So the energy at school was kind of low. I'm going to say it was low vibrational. And so then I got to bring that up to get with my clients. And it was taking a toll on my mental, emotional, spiritual, physical health, to the point where I like yourself, we have this thread and garment, I ended up having this mental, emotional breakdown, stress-induced breakdown, where Spirit was like, you're not listening. So now, Deb Squizzero, we take that rug, we rip it right up from underneath you and say, you're not listening to your soul's purpose. This is what you were supposed to do. You keep denying it. So now we got to show you the hard way, because we tried to show you the easy way, the easier way, but you weren't listening. So and it's so funny how things happen. There are no coincidences. It started November of 2019. And the doctor wrote me out of work in January. By January of 2020, it got really bad where I couldn't function. And she wrote me out of work January, February. I went back mid-March. Danielle, no coincidence, I was there 7 days and COVID hit.
Yeah.
And Spirit says, guess what? you're not going to go back to this place. You're going to go home and you're going to teach at home, but you're also going to have this space where you can continue to heal. During this time to heal, it became abundantly clear to me that I needed to take a leave of absence. I took a leave of absence from my teaching job. As soon as I said yes to that leave of absence, holy shit. Opportunity. There was just like my business ideas were just downloading. Creativity was out of control. I had to get a book to start writing everything down. I could spend all day being connected to beautiful people like you, because I was becoming resentful too, that I could feel my heart wanting to be here, but I was at the teaching, and I had this worthiness thing in my mind that I was not worth leaving teaching to do this full time, and that I could never support myself. I needed a husband who had benefits, who had this, that's the only way that I was going to do this. And you and I both know Spirit has the most unexpected way of answering a prayer when you decide to heed your calling and live your purpose and live on your purpose. So I said yes, and everything opened up. I took a year leave of absence. I've had the most amazing people like yourself and others. Just it's been, I cry gratitude tears sometimes during the day, because I say, I can't believe this is my life. I give myself a pinch test sometimes during the day. Debbie Squizzero, pinch yourself, because this is your life. You're living this freedom, and you're helping people and inspiring people, and you are worthy of doing this. And I will say, many years I took, like I would take 3 giant steps forward with mediumship, only to take 7 back. And then we take 3 forward, and then we go back. It was like this, it's a worthiness thing, really. So took the leave of absence from there. I just gave them notice that after 22 years of teaching, I left, and I am a full-time psychic medium. I just incorporated as an LLC. I'm doing a logo. Danielle, I never imagined this would be my life. And that is my journey. And I wouldn't change it for the world. It's hard, but you know what? Everything was such a blessing in disguise. I just couldn't see it at the time. And I was very much in a low vibrational victim role for a long time. And I did the bad thing of comparing my life to other people, which is a no-no, which I know now partly through manifesting too, and learning about souls and soul contracts, that everybody's soul is like your fingerprint is so unique, and a snowflake is so unique. And I love those metaphors, because your soul is so unique. So don't compare your journey to anybody else's, because somebody else's mediumship journey is so different than mine. And I love that we can all embrace how we got here. I think it's so exciting that we all have a different way of how we got here.
I know. I love that. So how do you feel being full-time now? Like,
woo! Oh my gosh.
I love it. And yeah, and this is it's so great to hear your whole story, because we haven't connected that much since I left that community. And I'm just like, I've been watching you kind of like make these decisions. I'm like, Debbie, we need to talk. I'm like,
I know, and you have been such a cheerleader for me and an inspiration, Danielle, because you did it first and you left. And I was like, look at her go. I'm like, whoa, you just like, here I come. And it was amazing to watch you. And that inspired me. And you were just so kind, and you would cheer me on. And you have no idea how much that means. I mean, it all plays a part in where I am now, it does. And I have other people in my life that have showed me that I could live my freedom. There's somebody in my life who's close to me who has his own business, and showed me clearly that, Debbie, you can do this. I live my passion. You can live your passion. And I was like, oh, he was just heaven sent to me to be like, ooh, I can do this.
yeah. Well, congrats on incorporating and branding up and all that fun stuff. That's the stuff I'm so passionate about, as you tell.
I know.
You took my podcasting course. So
yes,
I'm big on like the brand awareness and brand authority and stuff like that. So congrats. I'm so excited for you. And how interesting we said this before we started recording, but the similarities in our stories are pretty, like, I started developing in my 30s too. My breakdown was November 2018. I went back March 2019. I quit within a couple days, but then they were like, what do you want? Gave me everything I wanted. Still wasn't enough. Health crisis after health crisis after health crisis. And that was the big thing, like, because I worked for government and I got like all the perks and benefits, the pension, the best pension in Canada. Like, just like the craziest things and the benefits. And when I left, I was like, it's just not worth my health.
Mm.
I'm just not healthy here. I cannot get healthy here. And when
And you
I
weren't
left,
happy either, right? You weren't truly happy, correct?
well, yeah, I mean, my thing on happiness is I create happiness. So I would find ways to make it happy in the sense where I would simply, like, before I walked in, we called it the Black Tower. Our office building was actually called the Black Tower. And so
That's a
before I
lot.
walked into the Black Tower, I would simply just say to Spirit, how can I serve today? And so I would have opportunities throughout the day to have really engaging conversations and energizing conversations. I was very respected there. I was really loved there. So
Oh,
I didn't have it very like super severe, but I felt so out of alignment. And there were like a few toxic players. And it was my fault for letting the toxicity get to me instead of all the good. But that was also just my sign, like, this place is not for you, right?
yes,
So
yes.
happiness is a choice for me. I chose to be happy, but I just couldn't, no matter what tools I tried, I just couldn't let the people who were toxic like not get to me. I was just like, I just can't do this anymore. But the funny thing is, when I left, I was willing to let go of all the benefits. You know what, I'm just like, I'll just make more money, and then, if something happens, I'll have the money for it. And then the benefits came, like, they're like, oh, you're First Nation, so you actually are covered under this benefits plan. So me and my kids ended up getting free benefits for life anyways. And I'm like, what? Like,
Wow. And
so like,
that's when you know they're taking care of you, and this is really where you should be. And I love how you just said how you could take a step back and see how you would create your happiness. And I love what you said about going into serve. Oh my gosh, I love that. And realizing that they were the toxicity and the learning. I always say it's always a learning too for us with that.
yes. Well, I've always had a happy disposition. It could be my Sag moon, my Sagittarius moon, but like I've always been the kind of person that just had to like make my own life, kind of like make my own experience through life. Like, so I've always chosen happiness like where I can, but make no mistake, I allow myself to get into the dumps. I actually just learned, I don't know if you're into human design, but I've had like 5 human design readings and it's like goes over my head every single time. But I looked up one thing the other day that says that I'm an emotional authority. I was like, what does that mean? And what they talk about is being the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. Like I go through both extremes. I'm like, that is so me. So I
Wow.
allow myself to have the lows and embrace them. And then I allow myself to kind of thrive in the highs. Right. But with
Yes.
me, there's not a whole lot of middle ground. It's like very extreme.
That's all right. But it's like that saying they say to you, be with the emotion, but don't become the emotion,
Right.
acknowledge it and see where it fits in and bless it and give gratitude for it. And we move on to, why it happened. Yeah. It happened for me,
Exactly.
not to me. So
Yes. Well, I'm excited. So congratulations on all those big changes. And
thank
I
you.
was so excited to see you on TV. I mean, just a
Oh,
few weeks ago, I was like, you are so brave. I don't know if I would ever do that. If like a TV show said, would you like come do this on TV? I would literally probably say no. But you are so courageous. Tell us a bit about how that unfolded. It was incredible.
oh my gosh. It blew me out of the water. Now let's talk about no coincidences and how life is divinely orchestrated and planned and how people are placed in your life for a reason. So how that all came to be was 4 years ago, there was the local paper on the front page ran a story about a local police chief who is from a very prominent town here and how he embraces mediums in his own life. And for this person in this town to come forward to do this was like a big deal. So I was like, whoa. So I took that article, I framed it, and I put it in my waiting area in my office. I had a gentleman come in one day and I read for him. And at the end, he said to me, I am a police officer. I knew I was in the right place when I saw that article. That man did not tell me about you, but I know him. And I went, oh my gosh. I said, can you please tell him from me, like how I appreciate his vulnerability, that a man in that position would put himself out there like that. I'm like, that means everything to me, like with what we do. So he got me in touch with this chief at the time. And the chief was like, call me. We talked for like, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour. He was asking about my mediumship, my journey, and he said to me, I'd like to make an appointment with you. And I'm like, oh, what? I was like, all nervous, So he comes in like full regalia, Danielle, like he's like 6'1", like, oh, and I'm just like, holy shit, can I pull this off? The worthiness comes in again, the worthiness, right? So I did his reading and it went really well. And Spirit gives me a lot of songs in my channeling. And so they gave me a specific song for him and he was just like, oh my gosh. And so the reading went really well. We remained in touch for the past 4 or 5 years. So if he needs guidance, and he's a Reiki master as well, he's now retired, he's a Reiki master. So he just has been in and out of my life. He wants some guidance, sure, back and forth. So back in January, I was done with my readings and I go look at my phone and there's a text from him and he says, Deb, the local news station is doing a story on grieving to believing and they are having me on as a Reiki person. They asked for a psychic medium. Would you be willing? Well, I sent him the emoji with the eyeballs coming out of their head because it was so unexpected that I was like, oh my God. I'm like, yes. I'm like, I would, and if you would have asked me that, Danielle, like if that would have come, this is the divine timing, because if that opportunity would have come in, say a year ago, I would have said, no way, I am not worthy. Go find some, what, I can recommend 5 other people you can have for that segment. I'm not one of them. And so when it came in, I was like, wow, I'm really growing because I do feel like I can step up and do this and embrace this opportunity where, like I said, ask me a year ago, no way, I'll give you 5 other people that could go and do it. So we did the interview and I just was like, what? First of all, it took me like, I don't know how long to wrap my brain around it. And I just keep saying, the better it gets, the better it gets. That's my other affirmation that I love. And so, yeah, she had me on and we talked about the other side and we talked about what happens when you die. And then at the end, she said to me, how about if you give me a reading? And I was like, oh crap. All right, let's try it. And I ended up connecting her with one of the loves of her life who he had crossed over from an overdose. And so I connected her with him and it was crazy good. And I'm just so grateful. So that's how I would have never thought that this man who crossed my path 4 years ago would 4 years later be instrumental in helping me, do this segment on TV, on the news. I was like, oh boy. So that's how that happens. And he has just sent me so many beautiful clients and I have sent him Reiki clients and we know that's this beautiful energy exchange. So yeah, that's how that happened. And I'm just so grateful. I still process that I was on the news.
I think you're so courageous and I absolutely love seeing it.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
So I would love to know a little bit about your journey on going from feeling unworthy to worthy. What was that like for you and how did that kind of unfold for you?
Okay, who's the worthiness thing? That starts at home.
From our parents, but
yes. And my dad and I have a very difficult relationship. And I have a sister, and he and my sister had a very different relationship. And for me, with him, and I have to give him a lot of credit. He's come a long way on his healing. So I have to give him this. But back when I was trying to figure things out, I would be the one that it was never good enough. So if it was a B, why isn't it an A? And if it's, and if there are 4 A's on the report card and a B, well, we're just going to focus on that B and why isn't it good? It's never good enough. Oh, you did this and this and this, but what about this? But what about this? So it was, and the other thing too, the worthiness, it was like, not being accepting of who I was. So we know we're highly emotional, very sensitive, oversensitive. I would cry. I would be, and he would just be like, Debbie, you know what? He could go down the list of all the things that were wrong with me, Danielle. You know what's wrong with you? And at one point I'd be like, you know what? Save it, Dad. Because I can recite that list by memory. I don't need it anymore. So I felt this bit like an inchworm. Like I'm not good at, So as a teacher, I tried to work on that and saying, I don't want my children that I teach to ever feel like that, ever. So the funny thing is, I did that with the children. I would pump them up. But then you got a lot of colleague stuff going on as well. For as many beautiful colleagues that I worked with, we also, as you know, we have those other really difficult, challenging ones who, again, I would question my worth. I say this all the time. When I taught, there were so many times I didn't feel seen, heard, or respected. Many times. And I was like, okay, so I got this at home. I now have this at work. And now I'm going to go do my mediumship. And how the hell am I ever going to feel worthy to do this when everyone is telling me, not, well, not everyone, but, at home, and your family is what, what matters most to you. And when your mother, your father, and every daughter, I say not every, but most daughters want to have this really close father-daughter relationship. I'm the firstborn. My father was not available for that. Emotionally, I know now he has a lot of unhealed stuff that he's never unpacked and dealt with. I can understand that now from doing the work I've done, and being older. I didn't. And when he would tell me to change, and then that whole thing would also happen in romantic relationships. Worthiness from my divorce, from other men. We tracked a lot of narcissists being an empath. They would tell me you need to change, and you're too sensitive, and it's only a joke. And I'm just like, Jesus, I can't be right for anybody. I mean, I was in this one relationship where I was like, oh my God, I'm just not a good person. And I worked like every day to be a good person. And I was just like, no. And finally I was like, no, I am a good person. And my mediumship, the more intense my mediumship became, and the more people that I saw that I could help, I was like, okay, I really think that I'm not this person. And part of that worthiness too thing was that breakdown really made me, I had a journey of self-love and self-healing. There are so many things that I did during that time to work on my worth and also to heal that I'm still doing. It's like Spirit gave me a checklist of like, Debbie, do this. It's part of the healing, the self-love, self-healing journey, the worthiness journey, and do this. So there's like 4 things right now that I have done that have immensely changed my view of myself, of my worth, of what I can do. I like to, because I hear the song right now, give it to me, I'm worth it. Like, yeah, I'm worth it. Baby, I'm worth it. Give it to me, I'm worth it. I'm worth it. Yes. And it's so funny, if I sit with a client who has a worthiness issue, I hear that song. It's so funny. But I now know, like, I had a dear friend, she said to me, she goes, you just don't see yourself for who you are. And I said, no, we never do. I don't care who you are. We never do. That's just, I said, that's why I have beautiful people like you in my life to remind me that I need to step into my light and I need to do my purpose. And so that worthiness has been, and the more that I stepped into my mediumship, and the more that I embraced, this is what I'm supposed to do, and the more people that sat in front of me and said to me, you have helped me. You don't understand what you did for me. And I would say, it's not me. We're a team. I work with Spirit. I serve Spirit. I'm always humbled and blessed and grateful. And I said, so we work together. And I said, and I'm so happy that I could do this. So the more that has unfolded to me, I want to say I have arrived. I'll say I've 98% arrived. We all have those times where we kind of take that little step back. For the most part, though, that has been like you said, it starts from childhood. And it's just repeated, and I didn't get it took me a long time to learn that this was a soul contract or a learning that I had to do here. That was huge for me. And again, I look at even romantic relationships too. Oh my gosh, like, let's talk about worthiness. Compromised myself, settled. It's just with men who are just emotionally unavailable. My dad was unemotionally available. So like, look at this pattern, so that's how it intertwines with my mediumship. My mediumship made me realize my worth, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for each and every person who has played a part in this this crazy adventure and in this journey that I'm on. I love it. I thank them.
Yeah. So have you ever had readings that haven't gone well and you've questioned your worth like after
Oh,
them?
hell yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm playing with this philosophy around conditional power, right? Like this is kind of what I feel. I do spirit messages every month on my podcast, and Spirit's already bringing me stuff for April, and it's around conditional power, how we're only powerful under the condition that we're being externally validated, right? And
Yes.
so they're giving me all the different I love inspirational mediumship is kind of my next path in my mediumship journey. And
Yeah.
so they're bringing me all these different philosophies around conditional power, and I see it so aligned with mediumship being conditional, right? We're only in our power if we're being told we're accurate or it's understood, et cetera, et cetera. So
Danielle, that's so true. And that is such a key point. Absolutely. I've had many of those. It's not all rainbows and butterflies all the time. And I say to people, listen, this passion, because I don't like to call it work. It's not work for me. This passion is not for the faint of heart. It just is not. You have to be willing to take the good, to take the bad. It's about resiliency. Yeah. Oh my gosh. 100%. Yes, I have. And I have to tell you, it has taught me again about my worth and about myself, and to just get back up, because I love doing this so much. And what can I learn from that? That's the other thing I've learned too with that. When you give that reading, that you feel like you are knocked down a couple of pegs, especially when, I'll say it's one of those intense readings where it's like a parent that's looking to connect with a child, and you're just like, oh man, and that is, I've learned to it's also that trust and worthiness with spirit as well. Like, it takes three of us to make this happen. Make it happen, right? So it just takes three of us to make it happen. And I've also learned to, like with the worthiness, to just know that I'm worth, spirit is teaching me that I am worthy to do this work, and we're going to come through for you every time. And if it's not always a great reading, it's because we're trying to teach you something, because we love you so much. Because we love you so much, because you're doing a great job, you're never done learning. And that's also the teacher in me. You're never done learning, and there's always something new. And we both know that our mediumship will change and grow and become different. And I know we both can relate to that over 20 years. Like, it's just crazy good. But that's so true, and such an amazing point that is so valid on this worthiness journey, for sure.
Yes. Well, because I tell people in my journey, like I was always maybe oblivious. I wouldn't say I was always assured in my life, but I had a little bit of a rainbow and butterfly lens on life. And it wasn't until my first husband broke up with me because I was fat from Miami. He called me from Miami. I was in Vancouver, and he was like, I'm not coming back. You're too fat. Like, you need to find someone who loves you. It was like, I know. Trust me, he did this. And I was 23 at the time. And this was the first time that I felt judged. And it was the first time that I kind of came into like this insecurity in my life. And so from then on, I was trying to build up my worth again. And I was finally in a place where, I got really athletic, and I was like boxing competitively, and I was like really kind of like feeling my power, had some really good fortune in my life, ended up in Squamish. And then it wasn't until I discovered my mediumship abilities again that my worthiness came up again, where I was like, whoa, like insecurity kind of came up all over again, right? So this whole path for me developing these past 8 years has been really kind of like this like roller coaster of emotions with worthiness on this path. And that's why I'm playing with a philosophy around conditional power, because I see that within my own practice, right? Where it's like, I get knocked down if I don't feel like I met expectations. And then I get bumped up if I feel like I did meet those expectations. And how do we get to a place as readers where we can just stay in the middle and just serve without our ego attached, and just serve without our will kind of attached to the outcome. So anyways, I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of, I see you, I feel that so much. And I feel like that's been a big theme of my life as well, as around the worthiness.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of similarities. How funny with the weight thing. Myself, I said to you, I had a weight loss journey. So true. And I love that term, conditional power. I've never heard that. I really love that. That is,
Spirit gave it to me this week.
It rings true. It's, oh my gosh, I really love that. It clicks. Yeah. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, I had a big shift after my grief last year, where the mediumship really kind of like shifted for me. And I've been kind of following spirit's cues on like, where do you want me to go with all this? Like, everything's really shifted. I haven't really talked about it on the podcast too much, but the old way of doing my mediumship kept burning me out. And I was like, why? Like, why is it not the same than before I had this big grief experience? And then they started showing me in dreams, like I would wake up with the word inspirational mediumship. I'm like, what is this? And I finally asked Lauren Rainbow. She was a guest mentor in my community.
I love her.
I know. I love her so much. We're going to do so much stuff together. And she said, she's like, I have an inspirational mediumship card in my freaking deck. And
I have those.
I know her deck, the mediumship foundation deck or whatnot. And I just love her so much. And so my journey with mediumship now is really around inspirational mediumship. And so this is how it works for me. I find is like, they just pop in these words in my head. And I'm like, what is that? And I follow the curiosity, and the philosophy kind of like builds around it, because that's like my big passion is spiritual philosophy. Right. So anyways, they kind of gifted me it this week, and I've been really playing with it for the April spirit messages. So happy to see it kind of like applied here.
Yes.
Help me
And
grow.
what I just got as divine inspiration right now, as you were talking, is spirit. I just heard spirit clearly say to me, "You're going to write a book."
Oh,
So you're taking all of this is taking you some. I'm just passing on the message because I heard it so clear that it's like you've got what I got, a smorgasbord. You've got like this smorgasbord of stuff that's just going to all like come together, like huge. I don't know, but I just heard it very clearly as you were talking. I had to pass that message on to you.
No, I get covered in shivers. This is like where my passion is. This is how come I love the teaching, right? Is because I get to share philosophy where possible.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm just so excited right now, like talking about this. So I want to actually ask if you would be willing to share the 4 things that you're doing that help you get to the self-worthiness, only if you want to.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, everyone needs to know.
Right. Yes, I know. Tell us the secret.
Yes. So the things that I do that have really helped me get on my path is I really, I always say, like I said before, consistency, not perfection, but I have started this gratitude practice, and it really started like intense during COVID, the intense like a year ago, because I know we're still in COVID now, but I mean like intense COVID when it just went down a year ago. And I started with, because I was coming off of the breakdown. And so I started with, I do affirmations every day. That's one thing that I do. And I started with just writing them every day. I am, and whatever came to my mind, I am fierce. I am powerful. I am worthy of a loving relationship. I am love. I am creative. I would just get out of bed. I'd come downstairs to my kitchen, and there would be my pencil and my pen and my paper, and I would just write them. So I do affirmations. I don't write them anymore, but I do say them. My favorite one is I am enough. Oh my gosh. Look at that. The other one is when I get to look in the mirror, and this one this was hard to do. When I would look at myself and go, and I love you. That was hard to do at the beginning. I can do it with conviction now, but I couldn't do it for a long time. So I do affirmations. I have a gratitude journal. Before I open my eyes, and actually, when I get out of bed, before I get out of bed, I have this journal. I take it. I have my pen and paper. This I do write down. I write down my what I'm grateful for right now. Mostly, it's every morning. I'm grateful for my health, and I'm grateful for my family's health. And then I write down 2 or 3 other things. It's not long. It's like 3 things that I'm grateful for. Then I have 2 inspirational books that I read 1 page from. So I read a page of inspiration. I write down my gratitude. And the 2 books that I have, I love Coffee with Colby Rebel. I love her book. And when I get to the end, I start again from the beginning. And I highlight certain of those messages that really resonate with me, where I am on my path, so I can go back and find them. The other book that I use for my inspiration and worthiness is Mike Dooley, Notes from the Universe. He was all about being a part of the secret. So he came out in September with this compilation that's thick of all of his notes from the universe. I love. So I read a page of inspiration from there, a page from Colby. I do my gratitude. I do my I ams. I am this, I am that. And then I set intentions for the day. So lately my intention is I set the intention, I'm going to use the time today, my time today effectively and efficiently. That's my big one right now. So I set my intentions, I do affirmations, I do a gratitude journal. And that's what I've done to help me with my worthiness. The other thing I've done with my worthiness that I find during the day, I will also start giving thanks for things. I will just say, thank you for this, because I love that book. This book has been also, talk about manifesting. This book has been huge on my manifesting journey. Not so much The Secret. The Secret kind of introduced me, but Rhonda Byrne has another book called The Power. This book has changed my life. That's where my gratitude practice came from. And that's when my worthiness also started to all come together from that book. And I just got a chill down my left leg when I said that to you. My gosh. But those are the things that have been huge on my journey to worthiness. And it has raised my vibration because, I always say you try to find this equilibrium between the ego and the higher self. And when you can find that balance, you're in a very scary, good, dangerously fabulous place. And I'm there. Girlfriend. I'm there. And I'm not looking back. And when the ego comes in, I give her a name. Her name is Margaret. And this is what I tell Margaret. This is the other thing, part of my worthiness too, that I do. Margaret comes in every once in a while. I'm like, listen, I'm all about good vibrations right now. So you are not going to tear me down. So, I tell people, think of your safe place. So my place of peace is the beach all the time. And especially as an empath to ground. So that's where I find peace. So Margaret comes in, and I said to Spirit, what are we going to name her? The first name I thought of was Margaret. I go, okay, Margaret, listen. She comes in, and I go, listen, you take that big fat beach hat and you put it over your eyes. I go, no, pull it down more. I go sit your ass right in that beach chair, read your book, and put your feet in the sand, because we are loved, we are loved, we are loved, and fear and love cannot occupy the same space. So girlfriend, we are loved, and that's it.
Yes, I love that. Mine is Doubting Darla.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I love it.
I love it. Yes. And this is mine. Like I'm showing her, she's on my computer, but I have my screensaver on my phone that basically just says, I approve of myself.
Oh, I love that.
That's just one of my big mantras I use on my worthiness. Cause like, even before we started talking and you said, Danielle, like you just blew up, I immediately contract because I don't see myself like that.
Oh.
Right. Like I still don't see the success like everyone else has seen it. I still feel like an inchworm a lot of the time.
Oh, wow.
A lot of the time. And people don't see that. And that's how I feel almost all the time. I'm always scared to go live. I'm always scared to show up for class. I'm always scared to show up for readings. I'm still walking through fear every day. And like you say, it's not like this recovering from it. It's like building the resilience to it.
Yes.
So even though I still walk through that all the time, and I'm always honest with my audience about that, the resilience I have, what used to take me weeks to overcome, now takes minutes to overcome because of the practices, right? And so me saying to myself constantly throughout the day, every minute I get, I approve of myself. It takes away that conditional power. I don't need someone else to approve of me to feel powerful. It's about kind of coming back into self, right? And so that's the mantra I use. So I love these books. I'm going to post them in the show notes and your course.
Yes, they've been very influential in my life and changing things and turn the beat around.
You should be like the singing medium.
I hear it like it's on the radio. I can't. It's like it just comes out.
I don't remember song lyrics like at all. Like my daughter can hear a song. She's 7 years old. And like we're singing each other's songs in bed. I can still remember Jerry Doucette's Mama Let Him Play. I don't know if anyone remembers that song. I had it on vinyl when I was a kid. And I can remember, I don't even know who sings this, but see, I can't even remember. I don't remember lyrics at all. But my daughter can hear one song and she knows all the words. I'm like, she's correcting me as I'm singing like Katy Perry. She's like, no, Mom, it goes like this. And I'm like, oh my, I don't remember any songs. So spirit does not come through me through songs without a doubt.
Oh my gosh. But that's what makes us all unique. And I love that we all receive differently. That's what makes mediumship beautiful. I just think that's what makes the craft of mediumship so beautiful.
Yes. Okay. One final thing I want to talk to you about on this podcast, because it's unique to your story in a way. I get DMs about this all the time. Like I think I have 2 sitting in Instagram right now I still need to respond to, because I do talk about my husband not really believing in this, but me steaming for it anyways. How do you do that? I don't know. I'm like, we're not one person. We're 2 different people. We're allowed to be different and still kind of cohabitate the same space and have the same goals and desires, right? Outside of our passion.
Yeah.
But for you, growing up Catholic and having this family who really kind of maybe saw what you were doing as like a sin, or this is kind of sin, like how do you stay true to your path and your desires, having that energy kind of around you? How did you overcome that? And what advice do you have to people who are kind of in a similar situation?
What a great question, Danielle. Oh my gosh. That also played on my worthiness, because you want your family to love and embrace what you do. And they, like I said, they have come so far on that. I say to people, I've come to the place too where I say, I'm not here to prove myself to you. I know what I do, and I feel so good in what I do. And I also say, listen, I don't care what you call it, God, source, the universe, Allah, I don't care. I love this metaphor. Spirit showed it to me one day. Whatever you want to call this divine source, this beautiful energy, this God that you want, that you whatever you believe in, they put me in the pasta aisle in the grocery store. And they basically said to me, Do you see all these different kind of pastas? But in the end, pasta is pasta. It's different shapes, different sizes, but in the end, you boil it and you cook it, and it's all one in the same. So the same thing with like source and energy, it's all one. So I just say to people too, listen, so God, universe, whatever, gives everybody a special gift. And the universe would never give you a gift to do bad with. The universe gives you a gift to, it comes from love. You come from this place of love. They give you this gift out of love, and you go forward in love to do what you're supposed to do. And I was raised Catholic, so I also look at it this way. I look at it as Jesus was a medium. I don't care what people say. In my opinion, this is my opinion only. He healed. He foretold the future. He had prophets and disciples. And I feel like all of the people that do this work, who, whatever you believe in, you're the prophet, or you're the healer, or and that's kind of how I, say to people that this is what I do. And this is where I find my worth. And I've come to the place to really honor and know that it's going to take a lot for you to knock me off that, because it really rings true for me in such a big way, especially the whole pasta thing. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Like it's all one, and it's all from love. And so it's going to take a lot. And for a long time though, I will say to you, when people would say that to me, it would knock me, like you, it would knock me right off my worthiness. And I would just be like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, they're judging me and I can't do this. And or I want to do the opposite. I would do your conditional power. I would say to myself, okay, I'm going to just blow them away by saying this, that, and that. I've stopped all of that. You know what? This is what I do. I know what I do. I love what I do. I got this gift from universe, source, and God, and that's how I embrace it and go forward. So thank you for that question. That was so.
And the rest of the world can catch up, right? It's like.
And like my family has now, they understand and they will ask me questions. And so we've come so far with that. I have to say, we're at a really great place with that right now.
Yeah, that's kind of the approach I took too, is just around like, this is my passion. I'm steaming forward, and either it will inspire you, or it's just two separate things that we just don't have in common. And that's perfectly fine, right?
Absolutely it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I like to say, we grow in that vibration together. Sometimes it just takes a little time, and then we're like, oh, we just have to do this little growing. I call it like a growing pain. And then you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And even if that doesn't happen, the respect, the fact that you can, like you said, there has to be that mutual respect there. And there is. It's huge. I feel it. There's a huge mutual respect there.
Yes, for sure. We love it, without a doubt.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I think about your pasta analogy, and I have to laugh because my 4-year-old son will only eat, he calls it slurpy pasta, so like the long pasta, and my daughter will only eat twirly pasta. So it's like, I have to cook 2 different pastas like every time, because they will not eat different pasta. I'm like, it's just pasta. It's all the same.
Oh my God, that is so funny. Okay, that is no coincidence again. No coincidence. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Oh, so fun. So congratulations. I mean, I'm so glad we got to have this interview. I'm so glad I get to share you with the Spirit School audience, so that it can, again, people are always looking for these inspirational stories of people who have made leaps towards their passions, and it happened in perfect time for you. So how can people find out more about you and work with you? Like, drop your handles, and I'll put them in the show notes below as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And this has been such an honor. I've enjoyed sharing my story so much. I thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Truly, I'm so grateful. Just thank you. You can find me. I am on, I do, like you, I do my social media. I like being involved with my followers. So I am on Instagram as Debbie Squizzero Medium. I'm on Facebook, Debbie Squizzero Psychic Medium. And then I have a YouTube channel where I am Debbie Squizzero Evidential Medium. So I'm there. My website, 2 ways you can find me. You can find me under my name, DebbieSquizzero.com, or because Spirit gives me so many songs, I love this. This is the new one. I just got this domain. So you can find me under, and you'll appreciate this, you can find me under singingmedium.com. medium.com. Now, if you put the singing medium, there's a girl in Canada that comes up. It's so funny. Who's the singing medium? That is so funny. I was like, oh my God. So I have singingmedium.com. So those are all the places that you can find me. I have a workshop that's coming up too in May with another woman. We're going to talk about grief and how to cope with grief. She's a mom that lost her son. And so she's going to talk about how she got through that. And I'm going to talk about the other side and give a few readings. And so I have that beautiful workshop that the flyer should be up in a couple of weeks. So that's something that's coming up in May. I have that also.
Okay, and there'll be links below so people can just like quick link them. Did you hear me earlier call you the singing medium? Isn't that so funny? Like
That
she
is so
called the
funny.
musical medium or the singing medium. That's so funny. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Debs, and it
Oh,
was so good to connect with you.
Danielle, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for the work that you do. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Spirit School. If you did, please leave me a review and a rating wherever you're listening to this podcast. And if you do feel called to share this with your friends, thank you for tagging me on Instagram at Squamish Medium so I can also share. It really helps get the word out about the podcast. If you're interested in working with me in my one-on-one mentorship, a reading, or all the various programs that I run, you can go to squamishmedium.com or check me out on Instagram at Squamish Medium. The link in the bio has everything I am currently working on in service to the world of spirit. Have a great day, guys.